It's Monday night. Welcome to Monday Night Comics. Only on Comics with Dan.
Welcome to Monday Night Comics. So I did forget to put the oh shoot, it's Monday night. I did forget to put the. I'll get used to this eventually. So I almost did it again. Okay, so I keep happening, isn't it? Oh, David's here. All right, guys. So I'm really excited about this episode. We've got David Pepose here to chat about Space Ghost. And I've got my copies of Space Ghost here. So we're going to welcome David to the stage.
Hi.
Hey, David. How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. You're the first guest on this show, so I'm very excited to be talking to you and about one of my favorite books of the year. So
thank you.
Very excited.
It means the world to have your support, and yeah, I'm excited to set the bar real low for you, so you can just keep going higher and higher with the next few interviews.
No, I think I might have set the bar too high, because I've got such a an exciting creator to talk to. And one thing I noticed when I was looking up on sort of at your creator page on League of Comic Geeks is that based on what's solicited so far, Space Ghost has become your most written series.
It is, Savage Avengers had been my
which I mean I think it's pretty exciting.
Well, thank you. Savage Avengers was the longest I had written a book with 10 issues. So yeah, I'm actually I was just thinking about it now. I'm in the middle of writing Space Ghost 11 and 12. So yeah, this is kind of the longest I've ever been in a book.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really nice. I think in this marketplace, it can be very challenging. You see how many books, by design come out as miniseries because attrition is such a thing. And it's kind of nice to be able to get a longer runway and be able to kind of tell a longer story, one that's kind of broken up on an issue-to-issue basis or done, in one-parters or two-parters, rather than kind of writing it in 5-issue chunks. And this is kind of the first time I've been able to tackle something like this. I was able to do it a little bit with Punisher in terms of those being kind of done in one. Adventures admit sort of a bigger meta storyline, but having a longer runway like Space Ghost, it's a real gift. And I think it's given me the runway to really deliver some really cool work. Of course, it helps to have Jonathan Lau on this book, where that guy, he's been drawing, he's drawing issue 10 right now. He's got no signs of stopping. He really is a machine, and it's a real gift to be able to work with him.
Yeah. And I mean, I just yesterday read the preview or the advanced review or advanced copy of number 8, and I feel like your instruction for Jonathan on that one was probably just go to town, man. Like, I mean, oh man, I think that's his best issue of the series so far. I mean, so just too. the action between Space Ghost and Metalis is unbelievable.
Thank you. For issue. Well, I guess not to spoil too much, but what I will say for those fans who are looking forward to Space Ghost this week, the big inspiration
Mm.
point for issue 8, I had said, was Nightfall. If Batman is sort of a big influence behind Space
Mm.
Ghost as a core concept, I like the idea of pushing Space Ghost to his limits and beyond, and seeing kind of what happens when things go sideways for him. He's a big hulking character, especially with Jonathan's redesign, and I wanted to see what kind of story we could tell when he can't punch this problem out. Yeah, I'm really excited with how it's all come together. I just
Right.
we're sending the issue 9 to the printer right now, yeah, this two-parter I'm extremely proud of, and Jonathan is drawn just. I knew he was itching for some real superhero action, and he's delivering it in spades.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I was reading it, I was trying to figure out, because my first thought is like, this is almost the dark side villain for Space Ghost because of like the world conquering. But now that you mention Nightfall, I'm seeing Bane where
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you read Batman, before Bane, I mean, he hadn't really been outmatched like that,
Yeah.
and that's what we're getting with Space Ghost here. You feel in issues 1 through 7 that he's on par with his opponents, but in issue 8, the stakes are higher for sure.
Yes. Yes. We wanted to make it both the stakes both physical and personal. Without again spoiling too much.
Mm.
We've teased a little bit of Space Ghost backstory, and we get to peel back a few more of those layers in this week's issue. So it's really exciting, and just to kind of see Space Ghost pushed to the limit, and seeing kind of how did Jan and Jace respond to something like that. Yeah, I've been itching to write Metalis for a long time. He's my favorite Space Ghost villain. As I was putting this whole series together,
there you go. Yeah.
it made a lot of sense to me very quickly about what kind of threat he could face or he could pose for this book. Things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Well, and I love that with these sort of, you're taking villains that I don't think could really effectively be put into one issue and giving them two-parters. I mean, you had Zorak in was it 4 and 5? I really hard to write a story where the Creature King and Zorak get the same number of issues. It just doesn't feel like quite the right mix. But speaking of the Creature, go ahead.
Well,
I think there's a little bit of delay, so sorry if I keep interrupting.
Oh, no worries. No worries. Yeah, I think to speak to your earlier point, I think you hit the nail right on the head. Is there are villains and then there are villains, and for me, watching all the original episodes of Space Ghost, Zorak, of course, was a big name, but Metalis actually showed up in more. He was the most repeated villain in that original series. He showed up in 4 different episodes, and so. Yeah, and there was just something about him. I think, he felt like as a villain, he had sort of he and Creature King, ironically, I think they had sort of the most fleshed out kind of concept behind all of them. Metalis being the robot master. And so he's got all these ships and he's got all these drones and he's got all these, robot soldiers and the fact that he as a character himself is sort of this big imposing guy that makes Space Ghost look small. He's got the armor.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really cool and interesting. And it seemed very ripe to put not just a Bane kind of twist on him, but a little bit of Dr. Doom, a little bit of General Zod. Just this guy who, if Space Ghost is sort of the, I guess, patriarch of this found family, the unit that he's put together, it's pretty small. It's pretty intimate. It's just the 4 of them. Metalis is a general. He is a guy who, he oversees armies, but they're robots for the most part, besides his lieutenant, Lieutenant Transor, who is another villain
Yeah.
from Space Ghost that I wanted to throw in there. So yeah, I think every villain I try to make as a mirror to Space Ghost in some form or fashion. And I think for Space Ghost, if he's a family man, what's kind of the opposite of a family, or maybe a remix distortion of a family? It's being in charge of an entire unliving army. So yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, and you're absolutely crushing it with all these. I mean, we're eight issues in, and we've gotten just such a great cast, and it still feels like, I mean, all these guys there's potential to come back later on. Like I think I put in my review of issue number 5 that I refuse to believe that Zorak's going to just disappear after 5 issues into an ongoing. There's no way. It can't.
Yes. I don't think I'm spoiling too much to say that is not the last we've seen of Zorak. And I think that's what makes our 6th issue with Jace feel even sadder, is that poor Jace is beating himself up. And in that world, it makes perfect sense knowing what he knows. But us as the readers who are a little bit more genre savvy, I feel like, Zorak, you can't have the Council of Doom without Zorak. So I would keep your eyes peeled. He will be coming back, and he will be not super happy.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I have I've got all my issues here on my spinner rack, and Francesco Mattina is doing these covers. I've gone with all cover A,
Nice.
which has been a tough decision because there's so many good covers. But the other thing that I really like is that, I mean, the book quality is phenomenal. It has the great like cardstock cover, which usually costs a good bit more when you're talking big 2 books. So so it's just the quality. And then, I mean, all of you guys are just so cohesive as a creative team. I mean, like we've talked about Jonathan's pencils and inks, but Andrew Dalhouse is like
Andrew
so vibrant, and yeah, no, and I think what impresses me most about him is that the shape requires a certain kind of coloring to pop its best, and Andrew delivers that absolutely.
He really does.
And then
Andrew, oh, go ahead. Please you should keep complimenting the team, and then I can compliment them back.
Well, just the last piece, of course, is Taylor on Taylor Esposito on the letters, and he's become, I mean, easily one of my favorite. I'm really weird about lettering. I love letters. So he's easily one of my favorite 3 letterers out there right now. I read a ton of books that he letters, and he always brings something cool and fresh to the table, especially, and I keep going back to the Zorak issue, but his letters for Zorak were just awesome.
Yeah.
They were perfect.
I think I can't say enough good things about Andrew Dalhouse and Taylor Esposito. Taylor, I owe my career to. Taylor introduced me to the late Jason Smith, who was the colorist of my very first book, Spencer and Locke, when I was desperately looking for a colorist for that book. So I owe Taylor everything. I owe him a lot in my life. And so being able to work with him finally on an ongoing project has been just nothing short of just a really a full circle moment. He's so talented and he's so fast, and to see the kind of bounce that he gives these characters and the way that he sells the dialogue with his lettering. And then the cool kind of twists and turns that he takes, like you said, for Zorak or Titanor was one that I was really happy with, that we kind of revisited that same style in issue 8 coming out this week with Metallis's robot army. Yeah, Taylor is just he really is like the unsung hero of our book, so I'm very grateful to work with him. And then Andrew, my God, Andrew Dahlhaus is just I mean he is our book secret weapon. He gives so much energy to every page, and he really sells the sci-fi of our series, the space opera of it all. In particular, issue 3 was really beautiful. We had a scene where they're like fighting in like a cyberpunk looking alleyway that he did a beautiful job on. And issue 6 with Moltar with all the flame effects was really neat. And what he's doing in our two-parter with Metallis is really interesting stuff, where it's like it lends such a nice degree of mood and intensity. I was taught from a pretty early age in my comics career when I was an intern. Mike Martz, my editor on The Devil Wears My Face and Scout's Honor, he told me that good art makes or breaks a comic, and good colors make or break the art. If you don't have the right colorist, it kind of the whole thing unravels. And so Andrew is the right colorist. He is so talented and so skilled, and I just can't say enough good things about working with him. And then having them and Jonathan kind of Voltroning together into this amazing creative machine. I am very fortunate to be able to work with a team like them. And that is the reason why I try to push this book as hard as I can, is because this is a team effort. And they are busy in the trenches making the book. I have the easy job as the writer. It is the least I can do to shout their hard work. But I love, like I say, working on Space Ghost is a gift. And I think a big chunk of that is because of the amazing creative team that I get to work with. And seeing the kind of care that Dynamite has put into this book. You mentioned earlier about the card stock, and I was actually just gushing this morning. I just got my copy of the hardcover for the first trade paperback collection, and I was really blown away just by the soft cover. I got my copy of that last week, but seeing that hardcover, I was like, I think this is like kind of the most beautiful looking collection I've ever been a part of. I think it's nice to see a publisher like Dynamite cares so much about this book, and I hope it is reflected in the final product.
Yeah, I mean it's great to see just the collaborative effort, and it's obviously it's wonderful to hear you speak so highly of your creative team, and I'm positive that if I spoke to them, that they would say great things about you, and your writing's bringing a ton to the table as well. The as far as the hardcover goes, it's series like this that I find myself tempted to collect the single issues and then also get the hardcover to double dip. It's not a lot that I do that with, but this is one that I'm definitely tempted with. And I do really love that the issues are, I mean, every single issue, I mean, you could even argue that the second part of these two-parters are good jumping on points. I mean, they're not so horribly inaccessible that you can't understand what happened in the first part, Yeah. But every part's a good jumping on point. It's great. Thank
you. That was really, I think, the goal for this book. This was Space Ghost in a lot of ways was an evolution to what I was trying to do on Punisher. And I think Punisher even was sort of an evolution of what I had been doing for earlier in my career. Every series I had done prior to Savage Avengers they were miniseries. They were all done. They were written in self-contained arcs. Even the sequel to Spencer and Locke was its own standalone thing. But as I was right before I wrote Punisher, Ryan North kind of came out with Fantastic Four all these done-in-ones. Steve Orlando with Scarlet Witch, a lot of done-in-ones. Even the way that Jed McKay had broken down Moon Knight, there was a lot of it was very self-contained storytelling. And so that was something that my editor at Marvel, Tom Brevoort, and I talked about while we were doing Punisher was, is there a way for us to kind of straddle that line of self-contained stories, or these self-contained adventures that kind of build up into like a greater origin story for Joe Garrison? And that was great. But I was also, we did that kind of on like the world's smallest runway to do that, only 4 issues. And so with Space Ghost, when Dynamite said, hey, what would you do with like a year? Like if we gave you 12 issues in an annual, what would you do? I realized this was the best opportunity to try this out, especially with all the amazing villains that Alex Toth left us. The Council of Doom, Lokar, Brago and One Eye and Lurker and Tanzit. All these cool villains that we could either put a spotlight on or have as sort of a little bit of a more of a cameo. But I was like, oh, there's only one way we can do this. Like I can't build up a whole arc for each member of the Council of Doom. And I want to have the Council of Doom. Spoilers, I guess. All right, so we're going to do the done-in-one approach. And I'm really happy with how that came together. I really, I think if you think it reads substantially in singles, having read the trade, I was like, whoa, this feels hefty in a good way. So yeah, we're trying to just make it that if you miss an issue of Space Ghost, it's no big deal. You can come back. It's cool. But also if if you're on with us for the long haul, we're hoping that it sort of is an exponential investment, that every time we finish an adventure, you feel that much more invested and you come back for more. So that's the goal anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, just the ability for folks to, if they're not reading Space Ghost already, to jump on, I mean, and that's the other thing is, so the trade, when does the trade come out for
the trade is actually out now officially. There was a little bit of delay with the distributor, but it is available now wherever comics are sold. And it's got our first 6 issues as well as some behind the scenes features. We've got a foreword by me and afterward by our editor, Joe Rybant, some character designs from Jonathan Lau, as well as excerpts from my series pitch. So lots of cool stuff. And also just the design of it is really deliberate and cool. They did some really, they broke up all the chapter breaks in some really cool and interesting ways. So it definitely is a different experience than just getting the issues in singles. And I give Dynamite a lot of credit for being so thoughtful with the way they did that.
Yeah. And so being able to pick up that trade, right? And I mean, there should be, although I will say my shop sells out of Space Ghost quickly. So hopefully if people are trying to get completely caught up, you can get the trade, still get issue 7 and then get issue 8, which is coming out this week. So, but yeah, so, I mean, I think that that's all I had, but, I mean, thanks for coming on. And, anyone watching, go get Space Ghost number 8 on Wednesday. You can pick it up. Like we've been saying, like this is the first part of a 2-parter. So it's a good one too. So it's got high stakes. So it's definitely worth picking up, even if this is your first Space Ghost comic.
Well, thank you so much for having me. For everyone watching, thank you so much. And yeah, pick up Space Ghost number 8 this Wednesday, wherever comics are sold.
Great. All right. Thanks so much, David. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
All right. Thanks so much to David for coming on. I really appreciate it. Very cool to have my first guest be David Pepose. So I'm really loving Space Ghost. Like I said, and I'll pull my issue 1 out. Like we were saying, the quality of these books is fantastic. I mean, just to see, I mean, you've got this nice thick cover, right? And then I'll show you probably my favorite page. It's in the first issue, right? But it's just so good that that's my favorite page of the series so far. And if you can't see what that says, it says, "What are you? A ghost." So really awesome. Thanks again to David for stopping by for a little bit. But okay, so in terms of what I read in the past week, let's pull up the old League of Comic Geeks, which is great for tracking comics. By the way, it's wonderful to track comics, and then there's also a social feature on it that I am active on. So, all right. So we got League of Comic Geeks here. Now I need to be able to pull up my list of what I read, and we will talk about it. Okay. So the first thing we'll do is Incredible Hulk Volume 3. So I've been reading this in trade. I've been getting it from my library, and that's actually why I have these little things here to kind of block where my library is. But I mean, this has been, it's been really solid. I think that I've seen some folks talk about how that it's trying to be Immortal Hulk, and I can't speak to that because I only read like the first couple of issues of Immortal Hulk. But I will say that it's been an enjoyable read. It does feel a little segmented in terms of I don't want to call them standalone stories because they really are. It is a big sort of buildup to a certain extent. Now, this particular issue or this particular trade, it includes. Let me pull up. Okay, so it includes Giant Size Hulk #1, Incredible Hulk 12, 13, 14, and then Hulk Blood Hunt. So this volume in particular feels even more, I guess fragmented because it's split up like that. Now, I thought that the Blood Hunt issue was very good. Not a lot of substance to it per se, but Danny Earle's art and a bunch of vampires and Hulk fighting vampires. That should be really all you need to sell you on the book. But it's an enjoyable one. And obviously Nick Klein's art I believe he did issues 12 and 13. I don't think he did 14. I could be wrong on that though. Oh man. It's incredible what speaking for an hour straight will do to your voice, So Nick Klein is on number 14, which is interesting. But this volume has callbacks to the Donny Cates and Ryan Ottley run, and you are hearing this correctly, Bruce Banner turns Hulk into a spaceship and powers it with Hulk's rage. And it is just as crazy as that sentence sounds. So, Incredible Hulk Volume 3 called Soul Cages. Good read. I enjoyed it. I gave it, I believe, 4 stars, 4 out of 5. So pretty solid there. Stillwater is the next one here. Stillwater, I read the first issue, and you can read the first issue on Image's website, I believe. And if not, then I believe I got it from the Skybound Rewards program, which, I mean, it's a fairly straightforward rewards program. There's not a lot to it. But anyway, so you can read the first issue of this for free, and that's what I did, and I really liked it. And then I realized that my library has volume 1. So basically, without giving too much away, this guy sort of stumbles upon this town, and he realizes the people there can't die, right? And while you're within the boundaries of the town, you don't age and you can't be killed. You can get hurt, but you heal extremely quickly and you heal from everything. So it's incredibly done. The art's really well done by Ramon Perez and Mike Spicer. Great letters by Russ by Russ Wooten, and then Chip Zdarsky, who is an all-time great Daredevil writer. It does a fantastic job on this as well. This really gave me Walking Dead vibes. It's not the same in the sense that there are zombies, but it gave me those vibes because of the dynamic that all these characters have and how it's sort of a survival story, right? In a different way, in the sense that this town wants to remain hidden because of what will happen if they don't. So Stillwater, it's from Image Comics, and I believe there's 18 total issues, and then I believe that there was like a one shot that was like an epilogue or tied loose ends up or something like that. But I've only read volume 1, but I am holding out hope for like some kind of deluxe hardcover that's going to sort of pull together all 18 issues. So we'll see about that. I don't have any further information on that, but I am hoping that that's what happens because that's what I would hope for. All right. Next, I believe, is Ultimate Spider-Man. So sometimes I feel like I'm the only person. Oh, lost my magnet here. I do sometimes feel like I'm the only person that reads comics that's not pulling Ultimate Spider-Man. But I just, I mean, obviously, like I only have so many books I can have on my pull list. But Ultimate Spider-Man, and so let me actually try to hold on a second. I'm gonna try to split the view a little bit better here. Like I've said, we are still in the. Nope, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I want either. Yeah, that'll have to work. All right. So Jonathan Hickman gets a ton of praise. And I have no reason to believe that he doesn't deserve every bit of it. I've read some of his work and I've enjoyed what I've read. I read the beginning of, actually, I think I read all of what he wrote for the Krakoa era of X-Men. I read some of his Fantastic Four, and I've read this, and he's definitely got chops. I mean, he deserves to be on the top of people's favorite writer lists, and he's written well. He writes Spider-Man well here. Marco Cicchetto, again, we just talked about Chip Zdarsky being a Daredevil master. Marco Cicchetto did the art for Chip Zdarsky for that book. This Ultimate Spider-Man, I did like it. It is very good. I think it overwhelmingly gets like 5-star reviews. I ended up giving this volume 4. Only because, and I was told when I first read the first couple issues that this had to do with not reading Ultimate Invasion, but Um, my biggest issue with the book is that it focuses heavily on Peter Parker intentionally getting he's choosing to give himself superpowers, because he doesn't feel like he's happy with what he's doing with his life. Yet one of the big claims to fame here is that um, is that this is where Spider-Man or Peter Parker's married and has kids, and that's what everybody wants in or on Earth 616. But he's apparently he doesn't seem unhappy with his wife and children, but I just, for someone that his whole thing is being responsible, it seems off to me that he would intentionally put himself in harm's way when he knows that he has a family to provide for. It seems a little backwards, and I'm just not so sure about exactly how that would work. Um, Apart from that, what I feel is something of a departure from what I see Spider-Man to be. Uh, I I do like it. It's an interesting story. It's a good story. Um, I like I like that he's sort of, at least in this volume, he's sort of like teaming up with Harry Osborn, who's the Green Goblin, and it's it's it doesn't. I have a feeling that that's not going to end well. But either way, um, yeah. I mean, I liked Ultimate Spider-Man. I guess I guess also, I don't really need to tell people about Ultimate Spider-Man. I mean, everyone has heard of it, and if you want to read it, you've read it by now. But just sort of my little 2 cents on it. So, let's see what we have next. In Bloom. So I read this so recently that I didn't even get a chance to didn't even get a chance to rate it. So this is a new series out from Boom Studios. It's called In Bloom, and the premise. Well, so let me just sort of read a little bit of the solicit for you. So, 43% of the cells within a healthy human body belong to something other than the human host. Microbiomes, invasive bacteria, fungal and viral agents, and something else, something more. So when the bloom happened, humanity was changed forever, transformed by symbiotic fungal megasystems that infected their bodies. Some affected people grew new body parts. Some found their personalities changed in radical new ways, while others reported contact with some other intelligence not their own. So in this revolutionary new world, Agent Spears finds herself investigating a series of mysterious murders, a chain of violence that leads her to a terrifying question on which the fate of every living being rests. So I will say that the solicit doesn't exactly, reflect, because the biggest thing here is that there's this thing that happened. It's called the bloom. People realize that plants are basically living inside them and kind of waiting to bloom. Um, the popular thing to do becomes to bloom, they call it, where like you'll have like spores coming out of you, like some people their whole like face changes, whatever it may be. But it becomes trendy, and it become the I don't know if they call them blooms or um whatever they get called, but they become this somewhat marginalized group, that um there's a series of murders of these people that have bloomed, and they're trying to solve them. Some people are skeptical of it, and some people, others are, all gung ho about it. Um, there was a preview of this in, let me see. I don't know if it'll put it here, but Hello Darkness #4. Yeah, um, there was a preview, and I have to say the preview didn't didn't do a ton for me. It wasn't something that I found all that interesting. But then when I read the first issue, I really liked it. The art is it's definitely not it's definitely unique. So the artist here doing the interiors, John Pearson, um, and so it has this sort of uncanny look to it, and there's like mismatches in styles, and but it's intentional, or it seems to be, and it works though. I was surprised because when I first started reading it, I was like, oh, I don't really care for this art style, but by the end of it, I just felt that it really fit the book really well. So yeah, so In Bloom's out this Wednesday, the 11th. It's a number one. I believe that this is going to be a mini series. I don't know how many issues, but let me see here. Yeah, it's going to be a limited series, and right now, 3 issues are solicited. So, um, yeah, so it's definitely interesting. It's definitely like horror, right? It's definitely creepy, but yeah, I think it's really shaping up to be like a really interesting like mystery series, which is not what I expected from it because I read the preview in a horror book. So I might have I might not have enjoyed the horror side of it, but or at least in the preview, but I think that the mystery is going to shape up to be a really good story. All right. So, what else did I read this week? Shiver suspense stories. So, I have this one on here because I read this last week, and there are, as far as I know, there are 3 uh, horror anthologies coming out with holiday related stories. Um, so uh, Oni Press is doing this EC Comics revival, Shiver suspense stories, um, and so this has entirely Christmas and holiday related horror stories in it. Also, Hello Darkness number. Let me double check. Hello Darkness. Hello Darkness number 6, which comes out on the 25th, is also it just has one Christmas related story in it. And then also there is an Image Comics book coming out called Dread the Halls. So I have gotten review copies of all 3 of these, and plan to do a video sort of comparing and contrasting these holiday horror anthologies, to kind of show folks, what to expect, and which ones to pick up, which ones not to pick up, and so on. But spoiler alert, they're all pretty good. So it's honestly just going to be more of a matter of taste, as to whether or not you get some of them, all of them, or none of them. But so this one was really good. It has a story by Jason Aaron in it, and it's the first one, and it honestly blew me away. It was such a good story. I think that Jason Aaron is such a good writer. I mean, I I really liked. I read the first volume of Southern Bastards, which he does phenomenally on. Um, I read the first issue of the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I had to drop it just to clear space on my pull list. And but it was good. Maybe slightly more gritty than I had really wanted, but not bad overall. And so he has this story in here, amongst several other things. He's doing Absolute Superman, which was good. But yeah, this Shiver suspense stories is really well done. I guess not to get too far into detail, because I'm going to be doing a full video on this book, but they really get into the EC sort of tradition of having like a narrator or like an overarching story to bring the anthology along. Whereas Hello Darkness and Dread the Halls do not have that. But those two also have their strengths. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that video, which hopefully will come out soon. What else did I have this week? So I had Space Ghost on here because I did read that. You heard me talk earlier with David Pepose about that. So Space Ghost also coming out this week on the 11th. And like I said, you can read that without any previous Space Ghost knowledge, right? You don't have to have read the first 7 issues to understand what's going on. All you have to know is that there's Space Ghost, there's Jan and Jace, the 2 kids, and there's Blip the Space Monkey. That's it. That's all you need to know. So that's what I have read in the past week. So now we can kind of take a look at, and I've got about 13 minutes to talk about what I will be reading in the upcoming week. So Transformers number 15. The last 2 issues were, it was like a separate little 2-story break that had to do with Starscream's origin. And so they were very good, but I am excited to be back to the main story, especially with how, I guess it was issue 12 ended. There's a great cover here with Optimus Prime looking like he's about to get stomped. And I think that this is going to be a really big, the start of a really big arc. So very excited for this one. Probably my most anticipated book in terms of actual like physical pulls, not just review copies. It's between that and Space Ghost that I'm getting, and with that I'm most excited for. I'm excited for both of them, honestly. Power Rangers Prime number 2. I did a review on Power Rangers Prime number 1, and I liked it. That being said, after I did the review and then spoke to some other folks online who have read significantly more Power Rangers than I have, I feel like there was a lot in that I did not fully understand. There are references to the VR Troopers, I think they're called, which apparently is a whole nother like toy line from Hasbro. So that's pretty cool that they're introduced there, but it completely went over my head when I read that in Power Rangers Prime number 1. But I am excited to read number 2. Number 1 had some like really good like political intrigue and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed it, and I think that issue number 2 is going to be a solid follow-up. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. Flash Gordon number 5 we have here. I am excited to read that. I've really enjoyed issues 1 through 4. Jeremy Adams is writing that one. Michael Conrad on art. And who's on the colors for that? I know Taylor Esposito's doing the letters. Not Michael Conrad, Will Conrad. He might be doing he might be doing the full. He might be doing the full. No, sorry, Lilo Ridge. Lilo Ridge is doing the colors. But yeah, so this I believe will be the end of this arc, the escape from Planet Death. But I do know that they're continuing after this. Last issue was really Ming the Merciless heavy, which is cool. But I'm hoping that we get, I guess, Flash back into his natural element in this issue, or this issue leads him to be sort of back to his swashbuckling ways in issue number 6. But it's been good so far. It's been really good. I didn't know anything about Flash Gordon going into this, so reading these has been enjoyable. And so if you haven't read anything about Flash Gordon, you should also be able to enjoy these. Missing on the Moon #1. So Missing on the Moon, this also comes out on the 18th. So I'm looking forward to this one. I don't think that it's just an interesting concept. Let me get the solicit up here. It's a new #1 from Mad Cave. So the year is 1997, and crime on the moon runs rampant. And in the lunar colony of Buzztown, which is kind of a lame name, but that's okay, a billionaire's daughter has just gone missing. Washed-up private investigator Daniel Schwinn is tasked with finding the missing child, but in the process discovers a dark conspiracy stemming back decades. Schwinn will have to navigate a world of undead drug addicts, mechanized robocops, and blue-skinned Soviets known as Darksiders to discover the truth. So that's a whole bunch of just crazy stuff that they strung together in one sentence there. So in doing so, he'll have to confront his own allegiances and try to atone for past mistakes since resurfaced. Missing on the Moon is your next neo-noir obsession, brought to you by writer Corey Crater and artist Damien Cusiero. And so that's who those folks are working on, those two. And so here's the other thing is, and also why I'm very interested in it, is colors are being done by Patricio Del Pecci and letters are being done by Hassan Otsman Elhau. So those two, even though they don't get credit in the solicit, are probably who I am most excited to see in this book, because they can take a comic and just elevate it to the next level. Patricio Del Pecci, most recently doing colors on Crocodile Black. And then Hassan Otsman Elhau, he did work on The Displaced. He's doing it on the Body Trade. And he's the best letterer out there. Like I said, I mean, between Hassan Otsman Elhau, Becca Carey, and Taylor Esposito, those are the three top letterers in the comics industry right now. So Missing on the Moon seems like it could be pretty good. So we'll see how that one goes. That one's out the 18th. And then also Dick Tracy. This is coming out the 18th, the trade. I talked about Dick Tracy #6 last week, and issue #6 of Dick Tracy was fantastic. So if you want to catch up, and like I said, issue #6 is a good jumping on point. So you don't necessarily have to read issues 1 through 5. If you want the bigger backstory, the trade paperback's coming out on the 18th. So definitely don't miss that. Finally, Flash Gordon Quarterly #2. So I've been just trying to read all the Flash Gordon stuff that's coming out. And we have apparently a Dan DiDio's story, which is interesting. Rich Duick. I'm not sure who that is, but In another universe, we dive deeper into Dale's final moments in Defenders of the Earth and her evolution into the digital being known as Dynak X, which sounds interesting. An all-new Flash fiction story, which I believe that might have been that last one. That could have been the Western one. But it says a wholly original take on the classic character and his companions in a new genre and setting. So um, that's what's cool about these quarterly ones is it's just getting you kind of introduced and interested in the character and giving an opportunity to kind of tell these stories. Um, I think that Mad Cave's just doing like such a great job of introducing and uh, you know trying to get people interested uh, in Flash Gordon. It's a character that they have an ongoing for Flash Gordon right now. They have these quarterly issues that are coming out, and if you check out my channel, there's a review on a children's comic called Flash Gordon Adventures that just came out. It just came out at the end of November, and that's really well done. It's done by okay, I messed this up when I was recording the video too. Art Baltazar and Franco, same guys who did Tiny Titans, but they did such a good job on that. But it's just really cool to see Mad Cave doing this with Flash Gordon, because I didn't see any Flash Gordon growing up as a kid. I grew up at a time where he was not at the forefront of pop culture, but he at one point, I mean, I imagine this was what back in the 80s, was just huge. So it's cool to see Mad Cave kind of bring that back. They're doing something similar with Dick Tracy, although they don't have quite as many books coming out for Dick Tracy. But they do have, I believe they just released or started releasing new editions of the single issues that they just put out for Dick Tracy, like 1 through 5, and it all has these like wanted posters on it for each of the like mobsters that are in there. And so it's just cool to see Mad Cave kind of go all out and see see them just put so much care and attention into these sort of historic characters, which I'm probably unaging myself by calling Dick Tracy and Flash Gordon historic. Although Dick Tracy is pretty old, so that he can be called historic. I'll say that that's fair. But some people will probably laugh for me calling Flash Gordon historic. But so I believe that's all I had for this episode of Monday Night Comics. So make sure you, if you're watching the rebroadcast of this, get in the comments and let me know what you thought. Let me know what you thought of the books that I showed. Tell me what you're reading, and also any guests that you would like for me to invite onto the show. I'll see what I can do in terms of getting him on. I thought this format with David worked really well. Just had him on for 15-20 minutes and we had a nice little conversation about Space Ghost. So I hope that worked well. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like this video and subscribe. It really helps get the word out. Get sort of hooked into YouTube's algorithm. So please make sure that you do that. And as always, thanks so much for watching. I eternally appreciate it.